Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I'm Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. Today, we're going to be talking about why people seem to hate Bonelab. Now's the perfect time to discuss this because the dust has settled, people have moved out of the honeymoon phase, and the community has divided into love it or hate it. So we'll discuss why I am personally done with Bonelab, at least for now, and why so many other people may feel the same way. This is not a crap on Bonelab video. I gave it a very high review score and I stand by it. It's absolutely excellent for what it does, but there are significant reasons why it's not for everyone, and I'll be breaking those down. Before we get into it though, I do want to hear your experience with Bonelabs down in the comments right now. Do you love it, hate it, are you waiting on mods, or are you somewhere in between? Like normal, I've included links to all of today's topics if you want to skip around, but before we jump in, this video is sponsored by Kiwi Design, one of my favorite sites for VR accessories. They recently released some new Quest 2 headphones that promise to pack some extra bass and increase your audio experience. They currently have my favorite Quest 2 Elite strap with battery pack, and there's plenty of other accessories like enhanced controller grips, replacement facial covers, link cables, and much more. There's a link down in the description, and don't forget to use discount code Mateo311 for 5% off and to help support this channel. Okay, so first up, I've stopped playing Bonelab. Not because it's a bad game, but rather because it's not what I'm looking for right now. I crave a compelling storyline, meaningful character progression, gameplay that's both challenging and rewarding, and a handcrafted experience with some truly captivating moments. Basically the opposite of a sandbox title, which is actually Bonelab's main selling point. Additionally, those revolutionary physics do not have a strong impact on me because I've already spent countless hours in Boneworks, and I just swear that game feels a little bit better. So to sum up my personal experience, the physics don't feel new, fresh, or special. I have no real interest in sandbox games, and wandering around for unlockables feels like a chore, but these are just my reasons, so what's throwing off everyone else? At this point, there's no better way to describe it than stress level 0 is a bunch of trolls. In an industry where developers are hypersensitive about user comfort, they basically say F it in multiple different ways. Not only is the title filled to the brim with potentially motion sickness inducing movement, but it also repeatedly fails to explain the basics and even has some emotionally disturbing references to self-harm right out of the gate. So let's break down each of those issues. For years, VR development has included a slew of comfort options for good reason. VR has the potential to induce motion sickness, and one really bad experience is enough to stop individuals from ever returning. While OG VR gamers or enthusiasts may scoff at this, it is still a very serious issue for many. Both the gameplay and the mechanics of Bonelab take an already niche group of VR gamers and chop it down multiple additional times. You start with the entire community of VR gamers, but only about 50% of them enjoy shooters. But they also have to be looking for a sandbox title and have some seriously strong VR legs. So they're easily pushing out a large portion of the community. Now honestly, this is completely fine, but due to the niche nature of VR gaming, developers usually tend to include as many people as possible. So this could actually be frustrating to other developers because not only does it so egregiously break the established norms, but it may even push some people away from VR. Now when it comes to teaching players the basics of the game, Bonelab makes zero effort to make sure you know what you're doing. The few times that they do explain something, it is extremely easy to miss, and it's like they're expecting you to learn from failure. I've received countless messages on basic elements from how do I climb, jump, or store my weapons, all the way to where the heck is the campaign. Not only is this a massive departure from traditional games, but it can also be extremely frustrating. I had 6 fellow content creators and nearly 100 gamers reach out because they were stuck with issues that could have easily been explained. Hiding the campaign behind a physics puzzle and not explaining unlockables are two of the most egregious offenses. So many people are complaining how they need to replay multiple levels because they had no idea how to unlock those Pokeballs. And finally, let's get into that self-harm intro. I get it, Bonelab is edgy, but for many, this was way too much. Sure, you can complain that the world is a bunch of hypersensitive babies, but not including any option to skip this feels like another bit of stress level 0 trolling. Mental health is a serious issue, and this unnecessary scene ostracizes even more individuals. It would be one thing if you started the game with the noose around your neck, but having to physically put it on in the highly immersive medium of VR just goes a bit too far. Now before you give me crap for this one, I actually enjoyed the scene. It blasted me with a mix of sensations ranging from exhilaration to apprehension, and this does go with stress level 0's whole theme of high intensity, but it's just one more put off for certain individuals. Now another major area of complaint is the jank. The physics jank is just too much or too frustrating for many to handle. While it might lead to some awesome firefights and badass melee combat, it fails on some of the most basic elements. Simply turning a lever can leave you floating one-handed in midair, because apparently in the Bonelab universe, it's way easier to completely suspend yourself by one hand rather than being able to turn a valve. Now, I've seen that issue multiple times throughout the game, and even had to brace myself down to the table while using the crane. Otherwise, the knob was forcing me to bounce around all over the place. Climbing feels everything from inconsistent to completely infuriating. Sure, you can say this is just a learning curve, but rather than a small slope, it feels exponential. Now, personally, I think the controls are more fun than jank, but that is not the opinion of everyone. And another opinion that not everyone shares is this title is just a gimmicky tech demo. Now, it's possible this just overlaps with the fact that not everybody enjoys a sandbox game, but I'm sorry, it really does come off like a tech demo. While I personally defended Boneworks from these same allegations when it originally released, it's hard for me to do the same with Bonelab. Levels 6 through 11 can all be completed in under 5 minutes and simply serve to showcase different minigame modes. Some of these levels also have no objective at all and just have you wandering around, and on another, you just sit back and let the game run its course. While many may disagree, these levels meet the exact definition of a demo. It's also pretty hard to call this a campaign. Now, some other user discourse just comes from the hype or inaccurate expectations. The hype surrounding Bonelab was absolutely insane, and even OG PCVR gamers were eagerly awaiting this one, which led to some individuals getting the impression that this would be the Half-Life Alyx for the Quest 2. In reality, those titles are in completely different categories and cannot be compared side to side. If you went in expecting something like Half-Life Alyx, you most likely came right back out thinking, WTF was that? The extreme hype combined with the $40 price tag, which is considered to be high-end for VR, has led to many snap purchases. If these individuals would have taken some time to learn more about the game, or just the overall quirkiness that is the Boneworks universe, they would have known it's not right for them and would have steered clear. Now, finally, we have a more niche issue, and that's the fact that Bonelab doesn't feel like a true successor to Boneworks. It's like the team spent all of their time making a port and just adding some fluff. It's clear that the Quest development was prioritized, as the Steam version launched without proper index control bindings and angular offsets. This feels like Stress Level Zero has turned their back on the community that originally supported them, and rather than giving us more of what we wanted, they spent nearly 3 years moving the game to another platform and adding just enough new content to show what the engine is capable of. Many had the false notion that Boneworks laid the engine groundwork, and Bonelab would be more of a full campaign rather than more experimentation. Personally, I'm mixed here. The trailer did seem to allude to more of a campaign, but we never had any real reason to believe that. Now, we've just gone through all of the issues that people may have with Bonelab, but allow me to present you with a nightmare situation that can easily push somebody over the edge. After a pretty bad VR game drought, you get your hands on this insanely hyped brand new title, but as you stop playing it, you're constantly lost, confused, and struggling against the game's physics. You manage to get a few hours in, and now you're just being tossed between avatar bodies in what feels like a demo. The previous level was a complete bore, and now they have you get into a go-kart. Instantly, your stomach starts to turn, you struggle to control the car, end up flipping it, and now you have no idea how the heck to get out of it. Nausea rapidly increases until you are forced to exit the game, and after hurling, you wonder why you're playing a tech demo that makes you sick when you wanted an actual game. Now, that right there was an experience that encompassed everything wrong with Bonelab. This definitely isn't the experience of most, but it's a clear example of how someone can end up hating Bonelab. Now, there's definitely no hate from me, it's just not what I was looking for, but I'm sure I'll jump back in a few months down the road as more serious mods start pouring in. I know right now you can change into plenty of your favorite characters, there's even some Mario Go-Kart levels, but again, that's not the type of gameplay I'm looking for. I expect multiplayer will get modded in at some point, maybe full levels and enemies from other games can be brought over, or maybe someone will deliver something that feels like a full campaign. But for right now, I'll just wait and see what happens. Now again, I'm curious, what was your Bonelab experience? Are you still loving it, hating it, waiting on mods, somewhere in between? Let me know in the comments right now. I'm sure you agreed or disagreed with many of the items I discussed. I'd love to hear that too. But that was today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. And as always, I will see you guys on next time.